Hey guys, Jax Voss here. Alright, I know it's been a little bit since I did my request post asking for suggestions on what to do, and it seemed to be EU theories, which I'm still not sure why that is a thing for you guys, because honestly, I'm having trouble finding decent ones, but I've had a couple suggestions. One that I'm not a huge fan of keeps popping up, so I figured, what the heck, let's talk about this one. Okay, so this theory is the Kenth theory. Uh, to let me enunciate that better. The Kenth theory. So this theory is that Ken, I guess Palpatine. Uh, he's the grandson of Senator Palpatine. Um, he is, if anyone is unaware of this background, there's it's not really clear uh, the exact way that Ken is Palpatine's grandson. We do know his father, Triclops. Yes, his name is Triclops. Believe me, I think that's the worst name ever. But Triclops was there. There are two base theories on his origin, and they're both acknowledged in Wikipedia. And so the first one is that he was an experiment that was actually started by Darth Plagueis. And I understand why people have this belief. So again, these are theories. They're not defined for sure in the EU. The EU does not make it clear, and of course, these characters only appear in an S canon story, so it's kind of hard. Like they're referenced, but they're not. We don't really know what the actual plan with them was. Anyway, continuing on. So you have, uh, so you have Triclops, uh, possibly created using, uh, well, it would appear in the Darth Plagueis experiment version that he would be part of uh, Palpatine's DNA, and Palpatine allowed him to continue to grow. We're not really sure with that one. Based on what we do know, I'd have to dig into Triclops a little more to really get into it, but the other theory is that he is Palpatine's son with Sly Moore. And for those of you who may for some reason not know who Sly Moore is, that is the bald chick that is with Palpatine um, in episodes 2 and 3. She's the one that's on the other side of... So you have Vice Chancellor Masameda, and then Sly Moore is his secretary. I have to go back through these things to know exact roles and whatnot. But during Palpatine's early reign, she was people kind of referred to her as Queen of the Empire, and they give her a bunch of weird like unofficial titles and whatnot. And she does disappear for a little bit, and so a lot of people believe that that was because she was pregnant with the Emperor's offspring, and neither one of them was particularly happy with him because he had a third eye on the back of his head. But but they made use of him. He was force sensitive, you know, but he was kind of rejected by the Emperor because well, we're not entirely sure why. It's not really clear. Again, we only have an S-canon explanation, so we're not sure what the exact reasoning is. Okay, so, and Ken is Triclops' son with with this girl who was a Jedi. She was a princess from her home, for her home on her home world, she would have been a princess in the same sense that Count Dooku was a count. Um, I forget her name, but it starts with Ken something, and it it's not quite clear the whole thing. So either way, Ken is their child, and that's the gist of it. Now and he disappears at the end of the Jedi Prince series, and we don't know what happens to him. This is the official story. So then there's this other character that comes on the scene uh, during the New Jedi Order called Kenth Hamner. He has military background and a handful of other things. It's not quite clear where he comes from, how he became a Jedi. All we know is that at some point he left the military and was recruited by Luke. And this is where I'm having a problem with the theory. He's supposed to be around Luke's age. It's not quite clear. But that's something I'll get into in the theory. So the theory is that Ken goes away for a little while with Triclops, something happens to Triclops, or we don't really know what happens to Triclops. We just know Ken either leaves Triclops or he dies, or and we don't know. We don't know. This theory does not dig that deep into him. So the theory goes that Ken Palpatine is Kenth Hamner. Well, the problem with this theory, again, is that Ken was a teenager in the Jedi Prince series, which is taking place around the same time, maybe a little bit before the Rogue Squadron books, the X-Wing series books. It's taking place around the same time as the X-Wing series, maybe a little bit before that. I think I think Luke's first appearance in the X-Wing books is actually the end. Is actually from what I understand, it's supposed to be after the Jedi Prince series has ended. But again, the Jedi Prince series is a kids book series. It's very kid focused. It's a young readers series. It's not supposed to be. It's S-canon because it's not. There are aspects of it that can easily be ignored or manipulated. Most of the characters are considered official characters. They're by name and whatnot. Most of the characters in there's a couple of things where it's like, oh, this might not be quite the same. Certain details might be a little different. It really does vary, and the issue, again, getting back to the concept of Kenth and Ken, again, Ken is like 14, I want to say, when he disappears, and Kenth, when we see him, we don't really know his age. His age is never made clear, but it is implied in his appearances that he was active in his appearances both in the New Jedi Order and in um, Fate of the Jedi, it's implied that he's somewhere between Luke's age and Natasi Dalas. It's implied in those that he would have been around Luke's age, maybe even a little older than Luke, which is why he was chosen to lead the Jedi Order when Luke took his forced leave of absence. It's kind of it's kind of confusing and a little strange. Um, so it could work. I mean, let's assume, for sake of argument, that Kenth was actually not as hidden as the Jedi Prince series makes him out to be. Let's start with that theory, okay? If we start with the theory in that way, we move to and we assume that Ken is actually Kenth Hamner, and we assume that he is, let's say, around the same age as Luke. Let's say they're like, less than a year apart in age. One way or the other, I don't care if you want Kenth to be older or younger than Luke. They're supposed to be around the same age. So let's adjust Ken's age, and let's make the idea that he's not really an important figure to the Empire, and that part is all fabrication because this is just a bedtime story. Okay, and he just happens to be an additional side character that the main characters want, that the heroes are curious about, that they want to know a little bit about his background because they're curious how this Force-sensitive kid got into the Imperial military. Okay, so let's start with that, with changing everything we know about Ken, basically. Okay, let's assume for now that that makes sense. My problem with that is that Triclops would have been pretty close to Luke's age from what I gather, if you go, depending on either, well, actually, if we go off of the theory that he is one of the experiments that Darth Plagueis was working on, one of the ones that wasn't destroyed on Sojourn, one of the ones that was kind of hidden away on Coruscant, that Palpatine was able to get a hold of. In theory, he could have been, he would have been born before, born in the sense as he left the incubator that he was conceived in before Episode 2, maybe even before Episode 1. That would age him up. All we know is that he was born sometime after 18 BBY. Okay, so he would have been around. Okay, so in knowing that, we know that he would have been. Okay, so yeah, so he was born after 18 BBY, so yes, he can't. So yeah, we'd have to totally change everything we know about these characters in order for. Yeah, I should have just done this earlier. So like, he's too young. He's actually younger than Luke. Triclops is younger than Luke. So in order for Ken to be Kenth, we'd have to change everything about these characters, or we would have to change, or we would just have to believe that Ken is not actually the son of a Jedi princess, and that Triclops and that Triclops is not his father, and that Ken is not actually related to Palpatine. Like, there's a lot that doesn't work. Because Luke is born in 19 BBY. Okay? He's born 19 Luke and Leia are born 19 years before the Battle of Yavin. Okay? Triclops is born after that by at least the following year. Okay? After 18 BBY. So, actually, no, it's specified after 18 BBY. So that means he is at least 2 years younger than Luke and Leia. So in order for Ken to be Kenth Hamner, well, he couldn't be Triclops' son. Okay? We'd have to change everything we know about either Ken or Kenth Hamner. One of the two has to change as a character altogether. Okay? And that's the problem. We don't know which is more true at the moment. The theory doesn't work mainly because we have to change character backgrounds. Now, Kenth Hamner has a very vague background. All we know is that he's former military. We don't know when he was born. We don't know his exact age. All we know is that he was a military man, and that by the time of that he was an active Jedi at the time of the New Jedi Order, the book series, and that he was the Yuuzhan Vong War, and that he was the Jedi Master chosen to be acting Grand Master in Luke's absence at the time of Fate of the Jedi. And that's all we really know about Kenth. He is a good friend of Saba Sabatine's, and, they were sparring partners. That's all we know. And, so I appreciate the concept of the theory, but the theory doesn't work when you look at the facts of the characters and who they are. And we know he is considered old. He is classified as old during the time of the New Jedi Order. He'd have to be close in age to Corran Horn. That'd be the youngest he could be. In order for... I don't know. Because Corran isn't that much younger than Luke. But yeah, that would be the youngest he could be. Like, he would have to be no, Corran is a bit younger than Luke, because Hal would have been like 10, maybe. So yeah. Well, anyway, sorry, I'm getting off track because I'm trying to think of a timeline, but yeah, I think I think that the Kenth and Ken being the same character doesn't really work because Kenth is older than I would expect him to be if he was Ken. The whole thing just doesn't quite work. I appreciate the theory, I do, but as much as people might want it to be a good theory. It's not. It doesn't hold water past just the concept stage, because with what we know of Ken, he's, like, he's a lot. He's significantly younger than Luke. Because Ken is. The timeline is very confusing here. So, apparently, Triclops' mutation also allowed him to age, surprising to maturity surprisingly fast. He was born in 18 BBY. Well, actually 17 BBY. He had a kid at the age of 10, according to the timeline we have here. So that's another. So, okay, so there are. So there is some conflict with that, then. So, okay, so there is that issue, and though Ken seems to age normally. Actually, let me look at the timeline possibilities here. So, I mean, it is. I don't know. It's still like the timeline doesn't quite work for me. Maybe it's possible. It just seems like he'd have to be like, because he's younger than Corin Horn, but I have a hard time seeing a lot of the masters looking up to a lot of the other Jedi Masters, looking up to Ken to Kenth if he is as young as he seems to be. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it is possible. Maybe I'm just overly critical of the concept, but it just doesn't. The theory. I don't know. It rubs me the wrong way that he would that like it doesn't make sense to me that he would abandon uh Jedi, that he would, return to the New Republic and not immediately want to become a Jedi and go into Jedi training. No, instead he would join the New Republic Defense Force and become uh, and then leave to become a Jedi. That doesn't make sense to me. If he's already gone through some training with Luke, why would he go why would he go into military service? It just doesn't make sense to me. Unless we take everything except for the existence of Triclops, Ken, and Trioculus, uh, and Zorba as completely non-canon, and just say that the story of the Jedi Prince series didn't actually happen. It just doesn't make sense to me. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there, if the EU ever gets continued, maybe I will be disproved, and and I will not complain if I'm disproved. You can if you disprove me, absolutely, by all means, make use of that. I will not uh I will not be mad if I am disproven in this area, but it just doesn't make sense to me. So there it is. There's my first video on EU series. Yeah. All right, guys. Let me know what you think of this theory. Like I said, I don't really support it, but if you can come up with an argument that makes it fit better, uh, and makes it make sense, by all means, say so in the comments, and I'll revisit this theory. If there's any theories that you would like me to talk about, any theories that you have, that you've seen, EU theories, by all means, leave them in the comments. I look forward to continuing the storyline with you guys, but I would really like some help on coming up with theories, because finding them is hard. um, at least when I'm looking for them. Maybe I'm just typing in the search engines wrong, because I'm checking multiple search engines. So anyway, that was the Kenth theory. Say that 5 times fast, will ya? So yeah, again, let me know what you think in the comments, and may the force be with you. Have a good one.